This incident took place when I was 16 years old. It was the time when my life changed forever. I had broken my back in a bad accident and was bedridden for months, unable to move. The pain was excruciating, but the psychological toll was even worse. Being trapped in a hospital bed, staring at the same four walls day after day. But I was determined to recover and get my life back. As soon as the doctors cleared me, I decided I needed to get out into nature to truly heal my mind and body. My mum agreed that a camping trip down in the beautiful Devon countryside might be just what I needed. She dropped me off at a remote forested area with my tent, some supplies, and a portable charger to keep my phone powered up. I had scoped out what looked like the perfect isolated spot to set up camp. Sure, it seemed to be on private land, but it was getting late, and I didn't want to risk camping too close to a public area. I quickly pitched the tent as darkness fell, cracked open a cider, and fired up YouTube on my phone as I settled in to relax. I was ready for a peaceful night. My eyes were closed and was enjoying my solitude. That's when things took a turn for the sinister. I noticed my phone battery was draining faster than it should, even while charging. Strange, but I tried not to think too much of it. That's when I heard it. The unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps tramping through the underbrush, rapidly getting closer. My heart pounded. It sounded like at least 30 footfalls. Was it an aggressive hiker? Or worse, a property owner with a shotgun? In a panic, I unzipped the tent and stuck my hands up, preparing to face whoever was out there. But there was nothing. Just the eerie silence of the forest. The footsteps that had been nearly on top of me just seconds before simply faded into an unnatural nothingness. A deep sense of dread washed over me in that moment. Something was horribly wrong here. I turned my head slowly, my gut telling me I wasn't alone. And that's when I saw it. Barely 20 feet away, unmoving, yet undoubtedly alive. A massive skeletal beast around 5 feet tall, vaguely resembling a hairless, emaciated dog. Its blank face was frozen in a permanent bestial snarl, lips pulled back to expose rows of jagged teeth. I've never felt such primal, wordless terror. Fight or flight didn't even enter into it. I instinctively scrambled backwards into the tent and zipped it up, curling into a tight ball on the floor. My mind had simply shut down, overloaded by the sight of that thing. After who knows how long, I somehow thought to check my phone in desperation. It was completely drained, so I frantically swapped in the portable charger. An agonizing 50 minutes crawled by before it finally turned back on with just 3% battery remaining. With shaking hands, I managed to text my mum a frantic plea for help, dropping my location pin and a prearranged code phrase for an emergency extraction. The phone died again before she could respond. All I could do was hunker down in my sleeping bag and try not to imagine what sort of ungodly abomination was lurking just outside those thin nylon walls. The next few hours passed like a waking nightmare. Every minor sound, a snapping twig, a rustling bush, sent panicked visions through my mind of that towering, bony creature closing in for the kill. Finally, I heard the blessed rumble of an engine in the distance. Risking a peek outside, I nearly collapsed with relief at the sight of my mum's car pulling up. I didn't even wait for the code response. I just grabbed my bag and sprinted straight for her open arms, leaving the tent and all my other belongings behind without a second thought. To this day, I have no rational explanation for what I encountered out in those woods. Maybe it was a delirious hallucination or vivid waking dream brought on by stress and fatigue. Maybe it was just an unfortunate trick of light and shadow playing on my already frayed nerves. All I know is that I've never felt such abject primal terror before or since. My body was robbed of all ability for rational thought or action. Only the most basic instincts for self-preservation remained. I'm not generally someone who believes in the supernatural, but that day in Devon will eternally be burned into my psyche as an omen. A warning from the universe that some places are better left undisturbed by human trespassers. If I had pressed on with my ill-fated camping excursion, I shudder to think what other shadowed monstrosities might have surfaced from the murky depths of that ancient woodland. This happened to me and my girlfriend I was dating back in the summer of 2014. This all took place in South Carolina, and my girlfriend and I wanted to take a camping trip. We initially tried to go to a place 45 miles from our hometown, but they were going to charge us double what we thought we were going to pay for. We decided to head back, and it just occurred to me there's a spot in very close to where we live. Now, I will say, it's more boondocking and off-grid. We didn't have to pay for anything, just parked the car and we got out. This place is quite gorgeous. There's a historic bridge and trail, also some of the oldest railroad tracks in the South. We got there before sunset, so we had plenty of time to pitch the tent and set everything up. There were a few cars when we arrived, but they were most likely hikers and would be gone by nightfall. The only thing that made us uncomfortable was a busted up and rusted old white van with no license plate. We both pointed that out, thinking it was weird, but we shrugged it off and started walking to a good place to set camp up. After several hours around 2-3 a.m., following some quality time spent with her and taking in all the nature and then going to sleep, we started to hear this obscure singing and walking around our tent. Anytime you hear commotion that early in the morning, nothing good can happen out of it. I peered my head out the tent to see what was going on. I didn't see anything or anyone, but nonetheless, I didn't want to stay in that area when we both were freaked out. Just because I couldn't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I barely did a decent walk around our tent. As we were quietly gathering our belongings, we swore we heard the singing get louder. I recall words in this song he was singing had, "Now won't you'll come out," followed by this raspy laughing. Once we finally packed the tent, that was when crunching on the leaves and his humming is what we heard, so we knew this guy was close by. We booked it. I grabbed her hand and threw the tent and folding chairs on my back. We made sure to run the opposite way from where all his noise was coming from. Luckily, we set camp up fairly close to the parking lot because I could see lights through the trees. As we ran and scurried away from whoever was chasing us, we noticed the lights from the parking lot wasn't just the street lights, but also, to our horror, it was that old rusty white van we saw at the beginning. We hurried uphill just hoping this guy was alone. His van was right in front of mine. If he had an accomplice, that would be another person to deal with. As we reached the lot, we got into the bright streetlights. I noticed my girlfriend's hand make a slight twitch, and her pace slowed down. From that, I could tell she was turning her head to take a look at our attacker. I heard her gasp loudly, "Come on, don't look, we're almost there." She focused back, and we continued running in unison. This guy was getting closer as I can hear the noise of the gravel intensify. I heard his wheezing and him barking, "Don't y'all think you'll get away?" As we just made it past the van, we split, and I handed her the keys so she could unlock, start the car, and I can throw all the gear in the trunk, and we can make it out of this place. As I frantically laid the camping gear in the back seat and head to the driver's side, that was when my body faced forward for the first time in a while. Every noise this guy was making was close and amplified now. With the car running, I kept my head down to put it in reverse, but curiosity got the better of me. In the brightness of my headlights, this man was a behemoth with a stern, wrinkled face with red, patchy hair. a goatee that had dirt and crud smeared over it. His eyes were fixated on us like a scope magnifying on two 10-point bucks. He was wanting to kill. "Get back here!" he barked, waving a baseball bat back and forth. I shook my head, and with that I swerved out, and we were on the way out with our hearts racing. In the rearview mirror, we saw the man slam the bat in frustration. A narrow escape. We drove to Waffle House and spent the rest of the early morning until the sunrise.